Mother's Day. I'm pretty excited to be up here today. This is an amazing day for me because it's the first Mother's Day in our new place. I still pull up to our church and think, wow, God, I can't believe that this is ours, that this is where we worship you, that this is how good you have been to us. It was funny when Scott was up here doing the, giving the salary of the stay-at-home mom. You know, I never made that kind of money. And I don't know if a lot of you know that I was a stay-at-home mom for many, many years while the kids were little. And until they were probably well into middle school, about that time when car insurance and all of those things were looming on the horizon for us, I headed back into work. But I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. But it reminded me of a funny story about Callie, because our oldest has just graduated with her master's degree, but I was, you don't know the kind of mom I was, a lot of you in here, because you're brand new to Faith Church. I mean, you know me now. You know what shows up on a Sunday morning, and you see what you would say maybe as a mom who looks all put together, like that Pinterest mom, the kind that can take her kids' food and cut the sandwich up into a clown face, and then you cut the little carrots into a smiley face so that your kids will eat their vegetables kind of mom. Or, the one that drives a clean car or has a picked up house and clean kids. But that is simply not the reality of my life. I mean, if I am completely honest, I was a Pop-Tart toasting, corn dog baking, macaroni and cheese making mom who still wonders to this day why someone in my house wants dinner every single night. I don't get it. Why do we have to have dinner every single night? When I was raising my kids, we didn't have Google and Pinterest to figure out what could be some creative something to make for dinner, or how to put together your science project in 6 easy steps, which reminds me of this story for Callie, because I was not a very ahead of time prepared mom. Even now, I'm like passing on to other people, help me remember to do this. With Shannon all the time, I'll call up and say, okay, here's my ideas, write it down, and remind me later that I had this idea, and I want to do this. So Callie, she tells me one night, this is how it would fall out in our house. It would be about 8 o'clock at night, and one of my kids would say, oh yeah, Mom, I have this project due for the next day. Or, oh, by the way, did you know that I have this? So Callie says, hey, tomorrow is career day. It's career day at my school, and I need to dress up for my career that I want to have. And she's like, this is funny. She's like, I want to be a waitress. It's funny because she has spent the last 7 or 8 years of her life waiting tables all the way through when she got her first job in high school until she graduated with her master's degree. She has been a waitress. And I don't know if she remembers when she was in 2nd grade, her life goal was to be a waitress. But I am in my house and I'm thinking, a waitress? How am I going to make you into a waitress? I don't even own an apron. I don't even cook dinner. What are we going to do? And I said, you know what? I know, Callie. I know what you need to do. You need to go to career day as a mom. And she says to me, it's career day. I need a real job. She really said that. And I really made her go the next day as a mom. So I got her up the next day, and I put her in an oversized denim shirt, and I clippied her hair back, it twisted it into a clippy because, we don't have time to fix our hair when our kids are little. I gave her a stroller, and I put 2 babies in it because I made her a mom of twins, and I shipped her off to school that day and had her stroller, her babies in, and she was a mom. And it's funny because the next year, she had the same teacher. She looped from one year to the next with her teacher. And that teacher said, Lisa, I just need you to know this. She says, Callie showed up that year as a mom, and it was the cutest thing, and I've never seen it before. And the next year, we had all kinds of moms on career day. So I'm like, yes, because it is a job. We have this notepad in one of our surprise gifts this year for our Mother's Day gift, and it's Mommin' ain't easy. There ain't nothing about it that's easy. That's like my new life quote, because life ain't easy. Mommin' ain't easy. Shannon made me a t-shirt recently that said, Pastor's wifin' ain't easy. I guess she was hearing me maybe complain, or I don't know if you would call it, but I'm thinking, yeah, life, it isn't easy. But there's this funny thing about life, whether difficult or easy or simple or whatever it is, it's designed for us to show up for the life that we've been given to live. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to read the scripture to you. It's in Psalms 139. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. And I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth, and your eyes saw my unformed body. All of the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Father, I love you so very much this morning. I just ask that you take these next few minutes that I get to share up here, and that you would be with us, Lord Jesus. Speak to us, speak to me. Let my words speak to this place, Lord Jesus, and just be a word of wisdom and of comfort to each and every person in this place. For God, you have been so very good to us. It's in your name we pray. Amen. You know, life was funny for me for a mom. You know, I look at this generation of new moms trying to measure up and think, Lord, thank you that I did not grow up in that Pinterest life. I mean, because the truth is that my house wasn't very picked up. It still isn't. My kids aren't clean. As a matter of fact, my kids were always sticky. Everywhere we went, they were just, that's the best thing that defines it. They were sticky. Braxton could hold a utensil, but he ate like this for years. Fork in hand, but he ate like this. He was always sticky. And we were the type of family that if we showed up someplace, you knew that we had been there. It's like you knew that the Goins family was there. We had this wonderful day last week where we went to Chick-fil-A with some families in the church with Derringer and Shannon. They're 5 kids under the age of 9. And I just sat there thinking, yeah, I survived this. I mean, I'm thinking there's like some kind of dance party going on in heaven for moms like me that are like, oh yeah, you know, we made it. I know, Shannon, rein it in. She told me before I can't dance in public. It just comes out sometimes because I'm watching moms with their little kids, and I was that completely overwhelmed. But I watch it now and I walk away with a smile on my face and I think, yes, they're gonna make it. You're gonna get there and it's gonna be good. But we were the family that when we showed up on the scene, you knew we had been there. We had some neighbors in Norman, the Winslows, and they invited our family over for dinner. And we didn't get invited places. We didn't. No one had us to our house for dinner that wasn't related to us and obligated to have us over for Thanksgiving. Because you can't just tell us we can't show up for Thanksgiving. But we had never had anyone outside of family say, come over for dinner. And so Kathy Winslow was the Pinterest mom before there was one. Because again, it wasn't around when my kids were little. But she was to me the epitome of the homeschool mom. She had it all together. Her house was clean. Her cabinet was organized with toys that you should play in the morning to toys that you should play in the evening to this is what you should read your kids when they go to bed. And I'm just thinking, I have to make them dinner because it's 6 o'clock again. What do you mean I'm supposed to have morning toys and evening toys? And I don't know how to do any of this. But she has us over for dinner, so I give them the quick, 10-minute, you just got to sit there and eat and be quiet kind of a thing because we're at someone's house, so mind your manners. So we get there, and Kathy had this kitchen that was white. It was white. She had a light colored table. She had recovered. She was thrifty. She was a garage sailor. This mom could do it all on a penny. She had recovered her chairs with this white fabric. She had white walls. She just had a white kitchen, and she sat us down to her table to soup. Probably soup and sandwiches. And I don't really remember how it all happened. The soup was red. I think it was stew. I don't know. But I remember thinking, what's Braxton gonna do? He's gonna hold his spoon and he's gonna wanna eat like this. I think I stuck a biscuit in one hand and gave him a utensil, so he had to use his utensil. And then as quickly as we sat down and before there was any way like a slow motion video, I don't know, someone got up for something. Braxton probably did something and Brooklyn wanted it too, and somebody elbowed Kelson out of his seat. He fell back in his chair, and as he did, he flipped his bowl of soup, and red just went flying all over this white kitchen. It was on the table. It was on the chairs. It was on the walls. Callie is down there enjoying her soup because that girl has an amazing ability to remain calm while the rest of the chaos is happening in our family, and that is how she made it through graduate school, because I can remember saying, "That's good soup, Miss Winslow. You're a good cook." She loved eating dinner at the Winslow's house, and they invited her back often. They did invite us back again one day, but they served us hamburgers and hot dogs in the backyard. But that is a family that's willing to show up for someone because they had us back. So we left her house, and you knew that the Goins family had been in that place. It happened to us all the time. We had this restaurant that we loved to eat in Norman. It was called Super Salad, and we ate there because 2 kids could eat free with 1 adult. It's like fist pump, right, babe? Because we could go and just 2 meals had to be paid for and everybody else ate free. And it was immediate food because it was like a buffet, soup and salad, but we did not give our kids the soup. We gave them the salad and the fruit and all of the different things, and they could have this immediate food, and they loved it. And then not only that, but they had this ice cream machine. So you could get free ice cream after you ate. So I can remember Callie wanting to go get her ice cream. Yes, you can go. And Brooklyn, I want to go. Okay, take Brooklyn with you and help her with her ice cream. Okay. So I know how it played out. So Callie went there. She did her ice cream. She got it all fixed up. And then she got Brooklyn up there to get her ice cream. And Brooklyn was like, I can do it. I can do it myself. And Callie's like, okay. So she walked off, left Brooklyn there to do her ice cream. And then, you can hear, when you know something's happening because you just hear some commotion starting. And it's starting in one edge, and then it's getting louder, and it's getting louder, and it's getting louder. And you look over your shoulder because you think, I'm certain my kids are involved. And so I look over there, and there is a mound of ice cream growing underneath the machine because Brooklyn, in her effort to do it herself, could start the ice cream, but she could not stop it. She didn't know how to turn it off, so what did she do? She just turned around and walked away with her ice cream. And there's all kinds of people. Sometimes when you're other people in a restaurant, rise up and help the mom who clearly is outnumbered and needs you to turn off the ice cream machine for her child. But no, everyone is loud, and there's ice cream flooding everywhere. There was another time at that same restaurant, we were there trying to eat a very quick meal before we had to get somewhere. So I've got the kids, and it's like, time to go. Come on. It's like that mom on there, running. Come on, time to go. We're late. That's my life, always late. So I'm like, get up, let's go. And Kelson, he loved watermelon. So I would sit him at Super Salad with a giant plate of watermelon. So he's just shoving in this watermelon. It's time to go. So he's standing up in his seat trying to get he's still putting watermelon in his mouth while we're trying to get everybody out of the seat. But then how you see it, moms, when your kids are little? Hopefully they have stopped this by now if they're grown. But you see that look on their face, and they're about to sneeze, and you're about to be showered in snot. Except in this moment, I knew I was about to be showered in snot and watermelon. And I was not up for it that day. So I, in my effort, made that quick, turn your head out of my mouth, and I was about to say, and cover your mouth. So Kelson, he turned his little head, and he turned himself all the way around to the booth that was behind us, and he sneezed. And watermelon sprayed that booth of gray-haired little ladies like a geyser. I mean, it just covered their table. Like the soup hit the walls, the watermelon seeds just flew. I thought, I'm sorry. I mean, the parenting class that the Winslows had us take with them 3 times taught us that when things were going wrong with your kids, that you just tell people, I'm sorry, we're working on that at home. And I used that all the time. So I looked at them and I said, I'm sorry, we're working on that at home. But then Braxton, he was the sweetest kid. He would talk to anyone, and he would do it with a giant smile on his face, and he had this gruff little voice as a kid. And so we're trying to get out of there with my deepest apologies to these women who are saying things like, well, I never, and can you believe it? And they're trying to clean themselves off. And so we're trying to get out of the booth, and Braxton taps this one lady on the shoulder, and he says, hey, lady, you got watermelon seeds in your hair, as he's like taking his sticky hands and about to try and start picking them out. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to raise him to be sweet, but that is not the moment. You know, there was a time that my husband declared our car like a food-free zone. And he says, the car is a food-free zone. And I'm thinking, who are you kidding? That's like my ticket out of the house, is to get to Sonic and buy a giant thing of tater tots and like toss them over my shoulder to the monkeys in the back of the car. I mean, I am quite certain that there were enough French fries and sippy cups under the seats of my car to feed a family for a week. I mean, I actually think that we could have hung a sign on the side of our car and had a food truck before it was a thing, because we were always eating in the car. But it's funny, the way you think your life is gonna go is typically not the way it turns out, because nobody could have prepped me for what it was like to be a mom of 4 kids, age 3 and under, and try and grow them from there. As a matter of fact, if I were honest, I can think about my time as a mom, and I was fairly disconnected because it was so overwhelming. I can remember just getting through kind of the mundane activities and facing 6 o'clock again and thinking, dinner, again. It's here every single day. But thinking, I'm not equipped for this. And if I think now, you know, God has been doing an amazing thing in my life for many years. But I would say, especially over the last few years, and just my ability to believe in him, to trust him for the impossibilities of life, to believe for him to do big things. And when I look back at my life when my kids were young, probably there's always things that you wish that you could do differently. And the one thing that I wish I could do differently would be to show up for them in a way that I'm able to show up for my life now. I wish that I could take the mom that I am now and place it back to the mom when they were little, with that kind of God belief that things are gonna come through for us, instead of just living my life in that overwhelm or in that disconnect, or not being able to show up for people because I was afraid or I wasn't as good of a mom as the other moms that were around. I mean, you've only to pull up your phone or your computer to find the comparisons of other moms that are out there. I mean, you can pull up your phone and you can be like, yeah, wow, look at that vacation that they just went on. Ooh, they got a new house. Oh, her husband got a promotion. Wow, look at that clean car that they have. Oh, those kids, you know, they all in their matching outfits. Man, even their dog is cute. I mean, that's me. I'm like, they even got a good-looking dog. Did you see it? How do they do that? And I'm thinking, I'm not me. That's not me. But God did something for me a couple of years ago, especially, but on my road. You know, I am on my road to 50, and I am feeling like this year that God is helping me to learn how to show up for life in a way like I never have before, because I became face to face with the realization that it is quite possible to love God but still completely waste your life. You can love God. When my kids were young, I loved God. I did, but I didn't know how to utilize the giftedness that God had put inside of me, that he put inside of each and every one of us. You see, he entrusted us with his Holy Spirit, and each of us as fearfully and wonderfully made, as gifted people to show up for the people in our life. But we choose to stay on the sidelines all too much. You know, Kelson was a our youngest son who's not here today, he's a basketball player, 6'5", super tall. So we grew up watching him play basketball. And I can remember in high school especially, and that coach would get upset with him for doing something and he'd be yelling at him on the side and he'd stick him on the sidelines. And I'd rise up as a mom and think, get my son off the sidelines and put him back in the game. Let him play. Your parents, your sports. I've been to the lacrosse game. I can't see the whites out here, but I know you're there. Parents have this thing about rising up when their kids get put on the sidelines. But then I have to wonder, why are we as adults so content to put ourselves on the sidelines and let other people navigate the things of life that are around us when maybe it's something that we should rise up and do instead? I have to wonder if God is up there. Is he very happy about the fact that he entrusted us and gifted us with his Holy Spirit to do good works, to show up for our portion of the world that he's placed in front of us, only to watch us standing on the sidelines while other people get it done, and then just piling out our excuses for why we don't do it? Well, I should have them over for dinner, but my house really isn't that nice. I want to pray for them, but somebody else should do it. I really don't have those good of words, or my classic that I've been through 4 different things to wear, and I don't feel that good about myself, so I'm just not going to go. I'm just not going to show up. Nobody's really going to miss me anyways. We're just pouring out excuses, and I know it because I've done it in my life a lot of times, but I am fully and wholeheartedly convinced that we stay sidelined in our life because we live a life full of insecurity and a lack of self-confidence. It's like we just allow it to infiltrate our lives because we can always look up and see somebody else who's better at what we think we want to do, but somebody else has already done it. And I have lived that life of insecurity. I know insecurity. I eat insecurity for breakfast like it is a package of mini donuts. And at some point, you've got to tell yourself, we've got to stop. We cannot be so quick to compare ourselves to other people's highlight reels, to their vacations, to their homes, to their families, to their kids, because each and every one of those people are struggling with something within their life. I arrive on this scene, married for 25 years. I cannot believe it. Cannot believe it. That is amazing. 25 years. But when I showed up on the scene as a pastor's wife, just a scared, what I feel like was just a scared young woman without a stick of self-confidence. And I'm trying to, when I think about in my life, like where all that came from in my life. You see, I am a person who is afraid. I am afraid of nearly everything. People, conversations, just a heap of insecurity. And it's just the way that I grew up. When I look back at my earliest memories of comparison, I can remember being 7 when Cinderella was released on the big screen, and my aunt and uncle took me to see it at the movies. It was the first movie that I ever saw. And then shortly after that, it was school picture day. And I can remember laying there in my bed and asking like the fairy godmother to transform my clothes into a pretty Cinderella dress that I could wear the next day for school pictures. You see, I grew up wearing mostly my brother's hand-me-downs. I just didn't have nice things. I grew up with a single mom. My parents divorced when I was young, 5. My mom and my dad actually are each on their 3rd marriages right now, which is amazing to me that I have been married for 25 years because I truly believe you can overcome anything in your life by the power of God. But I was raised by a single mom who did her best with what she could to raise my brother and I. She comes from a long line of alcoholism, and it had just found its way into her life. I lived with my Nana for a while, and some of my memories of being with my Nana for a summer were spent at the corner bar, because that's where she would take me every afternoon and set me in a booth and then give me some quarters to play pool and I can remember sitting at her table in my Nana's house and popping the green beans from her garden and rolling her cigarettes with the little cigarette machine. It was like a little contraption, and you would make them while she sat at the table with her room temperature Coors, because that's what she drank. She was an alcoholic, and she passed it on to my mom, and they came from a long line of divorce, and that's just what I knew as life. And my mom was trying her best, but she just couldn't find her way for such a long time. Alcoholism had taken her over her emotions. She was severely depressed. By the time I was in late elementary school, I had been offered drugs already. I had suffered abuse. And these things were following me. And I arrived in junior high there isn't anything that could make me go back to junior high. And I was never more happier mom than my kids getting out of middle school and moving on with life, because I nearly checked out of that age of their life, because I remember the social pressures of that time. I was the type of child who must have just looked for a way to find praise. I was an athlete, and if I was going to run, I was going to run to win, and I was going to win that gold medal. I was going to play basketball. I was going to get out there and be a starter, and I was going to play. People would say of me now, when they've talked about me recently, or I've asked people, what reminds you of me when you think of me? And they'll say, well, you're driven, or you're ambitious, you're busy. And I'm thinking, these are not the things I want to be known for. When I go one day, I don't want it to be here lies Lisa Goins. She was busy. That's not what I want to define my life, is just to fill it with busyness. I want to fill it with the things of God. I can remember, though, I was always just trying to perfect whatever it was that I set out to do. And I was an athlete, and I'm terribly uncoordinated, but I could play sports. But in junior high, I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted the pom-poms. I wanted the skirt. I wanted the whole thing. 1 year, I was a cheerleader. I did it 1 year, but I made the team. But I showed up on this cheerleading squad in junior high, and I was way out of my element. Not just that I was ungraceful and uncoordinated and tall and lanky, but I didn't fit in with the group at all, with this cheerleading group and these cheerleading moms. And there's cheerleading moms out here, so some of this maybe still goes on today, in that you have practices all summer long when you're in cheerleading. And back then, maybe you practice at your schools now, I don't know. But back then, you practiced at the homes of the girls that were on your cheerleading squad. And so I would practice. We would go to this person's house for practice, and we had a schedule. Then we would go to this person's house for a practice. But I didn't have a house with a backyard. I was an apartment rat, is what we called them back then. Sorry to the Case and Associates apartment people. But I'm thinking the 10th and Rockwell apartments were nothing like the fabulous apartments that you guys put out now. But that was the area that I grew up in Oklahoma City. But I didn't have a backyard to practice in. So I can remember this cheerleading mom in front of a group of people when they were working on the schedule saying, well, I'll take Lisa's practice since she can't do it. And I'll have the extra practice at my house. And I'll take care of the food that day. And, we slowly begin to heap these things on ourselves, and it attacks our confidence in who we are and our ability to just want to fit in. Because don't we all, in some way, just want to be connected to people and to feel like we can show up on the scene and to fit in with life? If we don't, we're going to keep ourselves on the sideline because we simply don't fit in. But I would show up for practice, so she would hold the practices at her house when it was my turn. And I showed up and I did practice and I did my thing, thinking that, this is my group, I'm a cheerleader. And what I didn't know is that as it got closer to our competition that summer, they scheduled a couple of extra practices. But I didn't know. You see, when I showed up for the regularly scheduled practice at somebody's house, I can remember walking into the kitchen, and there's a group of moms in there in front of me and girls behind me that are on my squad. And this mom says to me, when are you going to get your phone turned back on so that we can make you aware when we have practice? You see, we didn't have money for things. We didn't have money to pay the bills. My mom would struggle from job to job, but she was just doing what she could. She was just trying to work hard. And I'm standing there a junior high girl, what answer was I to give this adult asking that question of me? When I look back on it now, I think, why didn't someone there show up for me? Instead of saying what you did in that way, why not show up and just take care of that need? Instead of sitting back on the sidelines waiting for somebody else to do it. Instead of sitting back watching the ice cream machine overflow. Step in, do something, do your part. But that's not the way it happened. And so I don't remember even what I answered that mom. But it was becoming increasingly aware to me that I did not fit into that group. And they were very happy to remind me, this group. We got to, just before we were going to go to the competition, I've shared this story once before, and I haven't shared it since because it's difficult to share, but it just occurs to me, and Kelly was reminding me that there's a lot of new people here that don't really know me, and so I wanted to share it with you today because I think it was that turning point in my life that changed a lot of things for me. So we are getting ready to go to this competition, and you wear matching outfits when you go to cheer camp. They put you in a matching outfit so everybody shows up and cheers in the same thing. Well, this mom had picked our outfit that we were to buy for camp, and it was in Oklahoma City, and it was at this place called the Polo Shop. So we were to go there and get the outfit and purchase the outfit that she had picked out. So I went to get it, and it was a polo shirt, purple and green stripes, and a pair of shorts with the polo. This is the 80s shorts, and then a pair of purple socks with the green polo guy on there. So we got there, and it was expensive. It was expensive. We bought the shirt. We bought the shorts. We couldn't buy the socks. I did not have enough money to buy those socks. I just had to buy the shirt. I had to buy the shorts. I didn't know what I was going to do, but we couldn't buy the socks. So I left with my outfit, and I just didn't have the socks. So we showed up for camp. We were at OU. We were staying in the dorms, and I'm there. And I find myself back in my dorm room by myself, somehow away from the rest of the group, and I'm there. And I don't remember if I planned it this way or if I just found the opportunity. But I went into the dorm room next door to mine. We were staying, on a hall, and I opened up a drawer, and I pulled out the purple socks of somebody else, and I took them in my room, and then I put them in my drawer. I closed the drawer, and I went back with my group. So later that day, when we were putting on our outfit to go show up for competition, we're all beginning to meet out in the hall, and we're all dressed and we're ready to go. And I get dressed, and I put on the socks, and I show up in the hall, and then there's this other girl on my team. And I start hearing her say, "Hey, has anybody seen my socks? I can't find my socks. They're not in my drawer. I know I packed my socks. I cannot find my socks." "No, are you sure? Look under the bed. Look right." No, they're not. She's crying. We show up in the hall. We've got to go. It's competition. You've got to show up. And so we're standing there in the hallway, and this little girl, she was so much smaller than me. She's just standing there crying, saying, "I know I had my socks." And I'm standing there. Wearing her socks on my feet. And I do not say a word because I was so desperate to fit in. I was so desperate to have the approval of those people, to not be the one who showed up with the phone that was disconnected while everybody else seemed to have what they need, not to show up as the one who couldn't afford the socks. I wanted the socks. And when I think back now, I think, why didn't someone show up for me in that moment? Could not someone have said, "Lisa, we know you're struggling. You can't pay your phone bill. Do you need some help buying your outfit for camp?" How simple is that? Don't be the one that stands on the sidelines. You see, I know that you cannot meet every need that is in this world. I know that isn't possible. There are needs we can't, even as a church, even with the amount of money that we give away and the things we do for people, we cannot take care of everything that is in front of us, but we can do something. You see, God has entrusted us with his Holy Spirit, And he has gifted each and every one of us not to be a sidelines person, but to get in the game and to show up for your portion of the world. Your portion, not mine. Mine looks different than you. But if you think you're exempt from having a portion of the world, you're wrong. Because if you are a believer in Christ, then God has poured his power and his spirit into you to show up for someone. And it looks different for each and every one of us, the things that we're able to do. It looks very different from us. But I take that whole past and my background and I show up one day as a pastor's wife. What? Are you kidding? I'm afraid. I can't pray for people. I would show up for baby showers late because somebody might ask me to pray over the cake. I could not even pray over a slice of cake, much less stand up in front of people like I am today because I'm afraid of people and of conversations. I can't do anything. Changed my major in three different times in college so I would not have to stand in front of a class and talk. I just kept moving and moving and moving till I found somewhere where it stuck that I didn't have to stand in front of people. It was child development. And I developed a lot of kids. I did not want to be in that major. I was only there because it was the only thing that I could do, that I didn't have to talk to people. I just had to show up in class and do the work and then go because I'm afraid. You know, I remember as a pastor's wife, I feel like this is the conversation that God would have with me because I married into a ministry family, an amazing family, a family who is the mom and the dad that I didn't have growing up, who is a grandparent example that I never knew, even though I have a fierce love for my own family. But God surrounded me in this incredible family. But I have a sister-in-law who is also a pastor's wife who sings like Mark's family. She sings like an angel. She is gifted. And I show up on the scene as a pastor's wife. I can't pray. I can't sing. I can't play an instrument. And everybody assumed that Kelly Goins' wife could do something. Something, anything. What do you do? I get asked that question all the time. Do you play the piano? No. You sing? Mm-mm. They just thought there was another girl that sang on the worship team back then at Broken Arrow. And I guess some of the older adults at the church just assumed that was his wife because I would stand in the back and say hi to people at the end and people would say, oh, that was a beautiful song you sang today. Good job. I'm thinking that girl's up there with her curly hair and they just think, just smile and say yes because they just assume that you should be able to do things. But this is how this conversation would play out. When I'm comparing myself to my sister-in-law, who I think is a beautiful example of a pastor's wife. And I can hear myself saying, I can think of a million reasons why she's better than me. And God would answer me, but you, I have fearfully and wonderfully created you. She's more talented than I would ever be. I uniquely and creatively designed you for what I want you to do. She is successful. And then God would say to me, her success is not your failure. Her success is my story for her. And I have a story for you. I just need you to show up. I need you to show up for your story in your portion of the world. I need you to believe in the creativity and the giftedness that I put inside of you to accomplish each and everything that I would like for you to do, because it's quite possible to love me and still completely waste your life. You know, the comparison trap makes us desperate. It makes us do things like take the socks. That comparison trap will make you barren and unfruitful. You cannot grow your own fruit in your life when all you want is somebody else's tree. Somebody else's tree because their life looks so much better than what you think yours is. And God is saying, I have equipped you to grow beautiful fruit. I have equipped you to grow an abundantly beautiful tree of your own so that you would show up for your portion of the world. And he's asking us to stop making excuses. You know, that excuse where you would say, you know, let's think about just in your workplace and you're thinking, I should invite them over to dinner. You're feeling kind of compelled to want to reach out to someone, but then you talk yourself back out of it because you're like, oh, my house isn't clean. It's not very nice. No, I'm just not going to do it. And then you find out several months later that their marriage was in crisis and they've actually separated. When God is saying, I asked you to get off the sidelines. I asked you to jump in and do some simple things for me, like reach out to somebody in your portion of the world. We're doing a study on Wednesday nights, and I read this just this week, and it fits so perfectly, so I want to read this to you. This is saying, imagine getting to heaven and hearing God say this. Before I laid the foundations of the earth, I thought of you and of the days that you would live on earth. I planned out the people and the places that I would give you. I laid out your neighbors and your workplace, the places that you would attend school and your family. I laid out enough days to do all the good works that I purposed for you. And I equipped you with all that you would need to accomplish those purposes here. I filled you with my spirit to encourage and remind you and to lead you. I gave you my word so that you would know me and that you would know what to do. I gave you people to run with, and I gave you people who needed me. Let's talk about how that went. Let's talk about how that went. You see, I know life is tough. I have had my share of tough times and face them even now. But I've seen some amazing things happening within this body of people. Shannon Schaefer is someone who does Surprise Gift Co. with me. And she has shown an amazing example this last year of someone who's showing up for her portion of the world. She's a school secretary, and she's just about to complete her last day. She's leaving that job behind after 11 or 12 years. I can't even remember how long. But she shows up every day at that job, and she has some amazing stories of just showing up for the people that are there at the school. Teachers who have come to her for advice, people that she's been allowed to pour encouragement into, to live a life for Jesus. But she has done that amidst what I would call one of the greatest crises that you can have as a mom when you're struggling with some of your kids or kids who are choosing to live a life away from God. So you can take those difficulties of your life. Yes, they're happening. They're real. I get it. Your finances are low. I get it. You're struggling paycheck to paycheck. I get it. Your marriage is in a difficult place. I get it. You want more for your life. I know. But God is saying, if you will just trust me and believe in who I am and who I am for you, that I have planned out your day. I have put inside of you everything you need to be equipped to get through this life. I have already purposed within you what I want you to do. So even though this is your reality right now, what I need you to do is trust me that I am going to take care of this and show up for your portion of the world. Because the opposite choice is to sink back on the sidelines and say, I can't do it. It's too difficult. While other things happen, and that was your portion of the world that you were meant to. You were meant to affect. You know, wherever you are in your life, it doesn't matter. Your portion of the world, again, looks very different than other people. It doesn't have to be a stage. It's a workplace, it's a family. But wherever you are, you show up and you be all there for your portion of the world. And I'm not talking about the be all there where you show up for dinner and tomato soup gets scattered all over the walls. You don't have to show up loud, but show up in such a way. Walk in quietly and show up and be all there so that when you've left, people knew you had been there. You touch people's life in such a way that when you walk away, they know that you have been there in their life.